Could this next month make or break the Lakers season? You're watching Lakers Report by Chat Sports, all things Lakers. I'm your host, Hannah Kulik, aka Laker Hand. Now, while the rest of the NBA is off in Hawaii, they're vacationing on the Cayman Islands. You know, for the Lakers, the work is really just getting started for our coaching staff. I mean, we have a ton of work to do. The roster is pretty much complete. Obviously, we still do have that one spot left. We're still remaining to see who it's going to be going for. Are we going to wait and see if Memphis buys out Iguodala? Are we going to take a chance on Carmelo Anthony? Or are we just going to sign some other random player that no one is really assuming we're going to sign? Who knows, but essentially the roster is pretty much complete. We have an entirely new coaching staff, a lot of new faces, so there are a lot of work to be done. Obviously this season, the pressure is really on. We are a championship contending team, and if we underperform, it's going to fall heavily on our coaching staff, so they have a lot of work to do right now. There really is no rest, no vacation for them. So I thought today we could talk a little bit about 3 burning questions that the Lakers coaching staff must address when training camp opens. Now, before we get into these questions, I want to just cut to the chase. Make sure you guys are subscribed down below here on Chat Sports and the new Chat Sports Lakers YouTube channel so that you do not miss a single second of all things Lakers. And while you're at it, go ahead and give me a follow on IG and Twitter. My Instagram is at Hannah Rose Kulik and my Twitter is at Hannah_Kulik to again keep up with all things Lakers and of course some fitness stuff. If you know me, you know I love to post workout videos and fitness tips on those platforms as well. But let's get into these 3 questions the Lakers coaching staff has to address when training camp opens, starting with number 3 here today. That is, what is our center rotation going to look like? Now, when the Lakers brought in Anthony Davis, I think a lot of people assumed that AD would be our starting center, but if you've heard any of his interviews, he has really stressed that he doesn't really like to play center. He would want to try to avoid that as much as possible. He prefers to play the power forward position, which, you know what, it makes sense because if you're Anthony Davis, you are a star player, you're the face of the franchise, you're really our future. We don't want to have to put you up against the other team center, their biggest, toughest guy, get banged around every single night. So for AD, it makes more sense for him, and what he prefers to do is play that power forward position, which is why the Lakers went out and brought in some more big guys like DeMarcus Cousins and JaVale McGee who could take more of that center load for them. Now, who is going to end up being our starting center, though? That spot really is up for grabs, and at the end of the day, it just depends on which direction the coaching staff is going to want to do. What are they going to want to prioritize? If they're going to want to prioritize shooting and scoring, then maybe they're going to go more for Boogie to be that starting center. As we all know, DeMarcus Cousins is that kind of more stretch 5, kind of like that 3-and-D guy. Or if they're going to want to prioritize, you know, rebounding and playing under the rim and more shot blocking, then possibly they could go for a guy like JaVale McGee. But at the end of the day, I do think that Boogie is going to be seeing some more minutes at that center position, but whether or not he decides to start or the coaching staff decides to start him or JaVale McGee is still yet to be seen. But in that 4th quarter, that is when I would assume that we would also see Anthony Davis possibly play some minutes in that center if we are going to see him play for us at that center position, because I would assume that in the crunch time, the guys who would be in the lineup would be Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Kyle Kuzma, Danny Green, and then probably Avery Bradley or another maybe shooter to help us on offense like that. So we could see Anthony Davis get some minutes as that starting or as that 5, but more in the crunch time. But in terms of for a starting center, it really could go either to JaVale McGee or DeMarcus Cousins. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I'm curious, who do you guys think should be the Lakers starting center? Do you think it should be DeMarcus Cousins? If you do it, type C down below. Or do you think it should be JaVale McGee? If you do it, type M down below. Now let's get into these other 2 questions that the Lakers coaching staff have to address, because these are 2 crucial things that they must address in order to have a successful season. But before we do, if you like sports betting and you would want to win a free NBA jersey of your choice, any player, any team, just message me right now on my Instagram at Hannah Kulik and or my Twitter at Hannah_Kulik, and I will explain to you how you can win one. You guys, it is so easy. I'm so grateful for one of our sponsors here at Chat Sports allowing me this opportunity to help you guys be decked out in your favorite sports gear. Make sure to message me right now so that you do not miss out on this exciting promo. Now let's move on, because number 2 on our list, this is something that absolutely has to be addressed by training camp if we are going to have a good season. Coming in at number 2 today, it is what will the rotation look like in the backcourt. Now, I'm assuming that Danny Green is most likely going to be starting for us at that shooting guard position, but in terms of all of our other guards, especially that starting point guard and that backup point guard position, really all of those spots are up for grabs. Obviously, there are a number of guys we could see those minutes going to. The Lakers have a lot of guards this season. We could see Quinn Cook become that starting point guard. Rajon Rondo could be our starter. We could even see Alex Caruso, Avery Bradley. Of course, there are also reports that LeBron James is going to be starting for us as that point guard this season. But at the end of the day, besides Danny Green, all of those spots are really up for grabs, and there are many different ways that it could go. We could see Rajon Rondo end up being that starting point guard and pairing up with him in the backcourt if that's what Anthony Davis wants. I'm pretty sure we are going to prioritize whatever AD wants, and we could very well see that happen. You know, the two played together back in New Orleans. Apparently they like playing together, so we could see that if the coaching staff wants to maybe prioritize more playmaking, isn't too concerned with more shooting and scoring, since that starting lineup would already have also LeBron, Danny Green, like I mentioned, and Anthony Davis, and then possibly maybe DeMarcus Cousins. Maybe we wouldn't need as much scoring, so we would have Rajon Rondo there. We could see Quinn Cook, Avery Bradley, if the Lakers coaching staff wants to prioritize shooting and really have that dynamic kind of 1-2 punch in the backcourt. Or we could, of course, also see Alex Caruso maybe even get those starting minutes, or at least have a big role. I wouldn't assume that Caruso is going to start off this season being that starting point guard for us, but if he starts off the season really strong, we very well could see him inserted into that starting 5 for us. It's definitely going to be interesting. Like I said, there are really so many different ways it could play out. I would assume that KCP is going to be the reserve shooting guard behind Danny Green, because I'm going to assume Danny Green is going to be our for sure starter. But like I said, all these other spots are up for grabs, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the coaching staff balances it and who ends up getting a majority of those minutes and who really makes it into that rotation. It's going to be very important to see. I am curious though, do you guys think that Danny Green should be that starter for us at that starting shooting guard position? If you do, type Y down below. If not, type N down below. Now let's move on to our number 1 priority for our coaching staff, something that they absolutely have to figure out. This is crucial for them for this season, and that is finding Kyle Kuzma minutes. Now, Kyle Kuzma is the only member of the young core out of all of the young guys that we have drafted these last few years. He is the only one who has made it, and not only is he still on this team, not only is he projected to have a big role with this team, but the Lakers went to great lengths in order to keep him. Apparently, they almost even missed out on Anthony Davis in order to keep Kyle Kuzma. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but at the end of the day, Lakers definitely wanted to keep Kyle Kuzma around, and there is a reason behind that. They are really expecting this kid to make a huge leap this season. He's expected to be, you know, their 3rd scoring option, that 3rd star for this team. There's a possibility that if he plays his cards right, he could even be an NBA All-Star. So the hopes are really, really high for him. But how is he going to get those minutes, especially now that we know that Anthony Davis prefers to play in that power forward spot? That is the preferred position of Kyle Kuzma as well. Of course, last season we did see Kuz play out of position. He can play small forward, but that's LeBron's preferred position, so probably not going to, if it comes down to it, LeBron's going to obviously win that battle. We could also see him play some minutes at the shooting guard, but that's obviously not an ideal spot for him. But finding minutes is going to be crucial for the coaching staff this season, because Kuz is supposed to have a big role with this team, and whether or not he ends up starting or coming off the bench is yet to be determined. You know, my initial thoughts were, why in the world would Kuzma, a guy who's supposed to be the 3rd option for this team, come off the bench? Guy who's projected to be an all-star. You know, when you look around at the other younger players who were drafted in that same year as him, the other top young players like Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, those guys are starters for for their team. So why would Kyle Kuzma, a guy who's just as talented, projected to have just as big of a season for an even bigger team, more successful, you know, more established team, why is he going to be coming off the bench? Doesn't really make a lot of sense for me, but I guess at the end of the day, you could see him in that sixth man role if the Lakers are saying, you know what, maybe there just aren't enough minutes in that starting lineup, but if we stick him in that coming off the bench, then he'll have more of a chance to really be able to dominate the ball and really be able to do work. So he's not going to kind of get overpowered by the star power that's going to be in our starting lineup. But I don't know if I necessarily believe that's the best thing for him. I am a little biased. You guys all know I am just a huge Kyle Kuzma fan, but I think I would like to see him be in that starting lineup just so that I can guarantee he's going to get enough minutes, the minutes that he deserves, and the minutes that will really allow him to take that leap and really become that superstar that I believe he is going to be this season. Now, the only way he is really going to be able to be in that starting lineup is if LeBron plays that point guard position and ends up starting for us there. So then we would have a starting five of LeBron James, Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, Anthony Davis, and then of course either DeMarcus Cousins or JaVale McGee. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see though, because Kuz is going to have to become a priority for this team if they want to be successful, because finding him minutes is, in my opinion, probably the most important thing that the coaching staff is going to have to do when training camp opens. So I am definitely on the edge of my seat to see how they are going to do so and how it is all going to play out. But those are going to be my three burning questions that the Lakers coaching staff has to address before training camp opens. I am curious, do you guys agree with these three questions? What do you think? Do you think Kuz should start? Do you think he should come off the bench? Do you have anything else that you think the Lakers coaching staff absolutely has to address before training camp opens? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to give it a double thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe here on Chat Sports and the new Chat Sports Lakers YouTube channel for all things Lakers. And until next time, Laker Hand is out. Bye guys!